Last night, I came across a story that made me physically sick to my stomach. A man was standing 3 feet from a sleeping woman's face every single night for weeks, and she had no idea. This is a true story, and I promise you, by the end of it, you will get up and check every closet in your house. In the fall of 2019, a young woman named Sarah moved into a small one-bedroom apartment in a quiet neighborhood just outside of Portland, Oregon. She was 24 years old. She had just started a new job as a dental assistant, and for the first time in her life, she was living completely alone. The apartment was nothing fancy. A small kitchen, a living room with old wooden floors, one bedroom and a bathroom down a narrow hallway. But it was hers, her first real place, and she loved it. The building had 6 units, 3 on the bottom floor and 3 on top. Sarah lived in unit number 4, second floor, corner unit. Her neighbor in unit 5 was an older man named Gerald. He looked like he was in his mid-50s, thin, quiet, the kind of man you wouldn't look at twice in a grocery store. Always wore the same gray jacket, always kept to himself. The first time Sarah met him was the day she moved in. She was carrying boxes up the stairs, struggling with a heavy one, when Gerald opened his door and smiled at her. He said, "Welcome to the building, sweetheart. If you ever need anything, just knock." Sarah smiled back and said thank you. She thought he was just a nice, quiet old man. She had no idea what was behind that door. The first 2 weeks were completely normal. Sarah went to work, came home, fed her cat Oliver, watched Netflix, fell asleep on the couch most nights. Nothing unusual, nothing weird, just a girl enjoying her new life. But then, small things started happening. One night, Sarah came home from work and noticed that her bathroom towel was on the floor. She clearly remembered hanging it up that morning. She picked it up, hung it back, thought maybe she just forgot. A few days later, she opened her fridge and noticed that her milk was almost empty. She had just bought it 2 days ago, barely used it. Again, she told herself she was being forgetful. New job, new routine, stress. But then something happened that she could not explain. She came home on a Thursday evening, tossed her keys on the counter, walked down the hallway into her bedroom, and stopped. Her bed was made. The sheets were pulled tight. The pillows were fluffed and placed neatly against the headboard. Like a hotel room, Sarah never made her bed, ever. It was one of those habits she just never picked up. Every morning she left it messy, and every night she climbed back into the mess. She stood there, staring at her bed, and felt a chill crawl up the back of her neck. Someone had been inside her apartment. Sarah checked every window, locked. Every door, locked. Nothing was broken, nothing was stolen. Everything looked normal, except that bed. She called her landlord first thing the next morning, asked if anyone had entered her apartment. Maintenance maybe, a routine inspection. The landlord said no, nobody had been in there. Sarah felt uneasy, but she tried to convince herself. Maybe she made the bed one morning without thinking. Maybe it was just autopilot. Maybe she was overthinking this. But she decided to do something smart. She drove to Walmart that same evening and bought a cheap indoor security camera, $29. She set it up on her bookshelf in the living room, pointing directly at the front door. She connected it to her phone. Live feed, motion alerts, everything. Day 1, nothing. Empty apartment. Oliver sleeping on the couch. Day 2, nothing. Day 3, nothing. Day 4, Sarah was at work. It was her lunch break. She was sitting in the break room eating a sandwich. She opened the camera app on her phone. Just a quick check, just to see Oliver, and her heart stopped. There was a man standing in her living room. He was just standing there, in the middle of the room, completely still. His back was to the camera. It was Gerald. That same gray jacket, that thin frame. He was standing in her apartment, in the middle of the day, like he belonged there. He wasn't moving. He wasn't looking around. He was just standing, like a statue, staring at the wall. Then, slowly, he turned and walked toward her bedroom. Sarah's hands were shaking so bad she almost dropped her phone. She felt like she was going to throw up right there in the break room. She called 911 immediately. She told them someone was inside her apartment. The dispatcher told her, "Do not go home. Stay where you are. Officers are on the way." 2 patrol cars arrived at her building within 15 minutes. Sarah met them in the parking lot. She was shaking, crying, could barely speak. The officers went upstairs, knocked on her door. No answer. They used the landlord's key and entered. The apartment was empty. Gerald was gone. But here's the part that will keep you awake tonight. The officers searched every room, every corner, and in the back of Sarah's bedroom closet, behind her hanging clothes, they found it. A small panel in the wall. It wasn't a door. It was a piece of drywall that had been carefully cut out and placed back so perfectly that you would never notice it unless you were specifically looking for it. It led directly into Gerald's apartment. He had built himself a doorway into her life. The officers knocked on Gerald's door. No answer. They obtained permission from the landlord and entered. The apartment was dark, pitch black. Every single window was covered with black garbage bags taped to the frames. The smell hit them immediately. Old food, dirty clothes, something rotten underneath it all. But the smell was not the worst part. The wall was. One entire wall of Gerald's living room was covered with photographs. All of them were of Sarah. Photos of her walking to her car in the morning. Photos of her at the grocery store pushing a cart. Photos of her through her own apartment window at night, taken from the parking lot below. And in the center of the wall, taped at eye level, was a photo of Sarah sleeping, taken from inside her bedroom, from just a few feet away from her face. He had been watching her sleep. The officers also found a journal on his kitchen table, a thick notebook filled with pages and pages of handwriting. He had documented everything: what Sarah wore each day, what time she left for work, what time she came home, what she ate for dinner, when she showered, when she turned off her lights. Every detail, every single day, for weeks. But there was one entry that made the lead detective close the notebook and step out of the room. It was dated 3 days before the camera caught Gerald in the apartment. It read, "She almost woke up last night. I was standing right next to her bed, and she moved. Rolled over toward me. I held my breath and stood completely still for 10 minutes. She stopped moving. She went back to sleep. She has no idea how close I am to her every night. She has no idea that I have been watching her every single night. Every single night." This man had been entering Sarah's apartment through that wall panel while she was sleeping, standing over her bed, inches from her face, watching her breathe, for weeks, and she never once woke up. Gerald was arrested later that evening at a gas station 4 miles from the apartment complex. He was trying to leave town. When police searched his car, they found a black duffel bag on the back seat. Inside the bag, a roll of duct tape, 3 zip ties, a hunting knife, and a handwritten note. The note had Sarah's full work schedule written on it, her exact route to work, the time she was alone, and at the bottom of the note, one sentence: "Friday will be the night." Gerald was arrested on a Wednesday. He was 2 days away from whatever he had planned. And based on what was in that bag, it was nothing anyone wants to imagine. Gerald was charged with stalking, breaking and entering, criminal trespassing, and based on the contents found in his vehicle, attempted kidnapping. He was convicted and sentenced to 12 years in prison. Sarah never went back to that apartment, not even to collect her belongings. Her friends and her brother packed everything for her. She couldn't step foot inside that building again. She moved to a different city, changed her phone number, deleted all her social media, started completely over. In an interview months later, Sarah said something that has stayed with me ever since. She said, "The scariest part wasn't that he was inside my apartment. The scariest part was that he was standing right next to me while I slept, and I felt nothing. No instinct, no gut feeling. Nothing inside me said wake up. I was completely helpless, and I didn't even know it." She also said that some nights she still wakes up at 3 a.m. and just stares at her closet door because she can never stop thinking, what if there's another panel? What if someone is watching right now? I want you to think about something right now. Wherever you are, your apartment, your house, your bedroom, there are walls around you. And behind those walls, you have no idea what's there. You trust that they are solid. You trust that your locks work. You trust that when you close your eyes tonight, you are alone in that room. But Sarah trusted all of those things too. And every single night, a man was standing 3 feet away from her face, watching her breathe. If this story disturbed you, I'm sorry. But if it made you want to go check your closet door right now, good, because Sarah wishes she had checked hers. If you want more stories like this, subscribe, because the next one I'm sharing is even worse. Stay safe tonight, lock your doors, and maybe leave a light on.